What's the haps? I'm Meroka, and today I'm going to be taking a quick look at Trine 3, The Artifacts of Power by Frozenbyte. This is perhaps unsurprisingly the third game in the Trine series. This is a kind of a puzzle platformer-y thing, where you control 3 characters simultaneously, and you can only use one at a time. They all got different abilities, and one of the big strengths of the series is that then allows you a great deal of freedom to solve a variety of different physics-based puzzles with a variety of different means. It does mean you can kind of brute force some stuff, but I've always kind of liked that. It's just a little bit of freedom to do things your own way. That's kind of cool. This one is a bit of a departure from the norm insofar as it is 3D. It's the first game in the series that is 3D, and that means it mixed things up a bit, so it is kind of interesting, but we'll take a look at it and find out what's changed. Let's take a look at settings first. We've got a variety of language options. Subtitles are in the following languages. Your audios are in the following languages. Video, not all the options are here. There's a lot in a pre-game launch which gives you resolution and window options, VSync, and AA options go up to FXAA plus 4 times SSAA, which they call their extreme. There are some graphics qualities. There's actually quite a wide array of stereoscopic 3D options, which, well, since I'm not using them or have access to them, I don't have on. But then once you turn one of those on, I don't know a lot about them. You then have a variety of more sort of tweaks and changes down there, which may be to your liking if you play around with those kind of things. Can't say I do, so I don't know a lot about them. Mainly in here we've got stuff like UI visibility. You can scale the size on there, tooltips, or an FPS cap if for some reason you want to put that on. I don't know why you would, but you can if you want to. Control bindings, you can control you can rebind each of the characters' controls separately, which is cool. And the gamepad can be rebound, but if I try and go into the menu with the gamepad, it won't let you. You kind of have to use a mouse to go into the gamepad to rebind the gamepad, which is not unreasonable to ask for, because it's a PC. I have the mouse, but, you know, it's kind of just an odd way of doing things. And that's about it for your options. A few other tweaks and things at the bottom there, but nothing of any real consequence. If we head on into the game, we shall go to kind of an overworld map, and that will give us access to the levels that we have. We have these big wheels are kind of the main levels, and a lot of little ones that are just kind of little mini bite-sized side quests. They'll give you kind of only one of the 3 characters to control, and it's just a shorter, more focused experience than the big levels. One of the things that irks me about this is you can see in the top corner there is the count for the amount of Trine angles I've collected, the collectibles in this game. And I'm not allowed access to this level because I don't have enough of them. This is the next chapter in the game. This is Chapter 7. I have done Chapter 6. I finished Chapter 6. This is Chapter 6. Down here. It is completed. If I bring this up, look, I got 140 out of 150 Trine angles. Congratulations, go me. But I finished Chapter 6. I can't play Chapter 7 until I've collected more of these. You can't progress until you go back and do better or do more side quests. Most of the main levels have 150 to collect, and these side quests have got 25 to collect. Some of the first 3 missions I think are just kind of tutorial stuff that only have 1 character in them and only 50 Trine angles to collect. So I've done okay, I've done reasonably well throughout the game, but I still don't quite have enough, so the game is now going to force me to go off and do a bunch of side quests. I now need to go over to like here and have a go at doing whatever this quest might be. Most of them are kind of denoted by an icon next to them. For example, this one, yeah, you've got the knight's helmet there. So I know I'm going to be playing the knight for that quest. We've got Zoya's bow there, so I'm going to be playing Zoya, the archer, roguey, thief kind of character if I do this level. And they're much smaller experiences, as I say. They've only got 25 to collect. But they will clearly make a difference between whether you can play a level or not. You're going to head into level 4. As I say, the first 3 just kind of introduce you to the characters. This is the first bit where the game really gets going. So, just to minimize story spoilers, we're going to start here. And we'll have a little bit of a voice acting and stuff before we begin, so you get a flavor, a taste of how that bit works.
It was not unusual that our 3 heroes would be whisked away at a moment's notice, for with great power came also great responsibility. The artifact of soul had arcane powers of resurrection, making our 3 heroes immortal and capable of great deeds and adventures. Sometimes, whether the heroes wanted these adventures or not.
I still don't understand how this Trine magic works.
You see, when we are together, the artifact contains our real selves, and our outside selves are projections, like shadows of reality.
What, Amadeus? I'm no shadow. I can eat a whole grilled hog. Could a shadow do that?
Pontius, I didn't mean a literal shadow, but as a metaphor.
Isn't methanol what you strip paint with?
Okay, so that's a bit of a taste of the voice acting. And it's not very heavy on it. You'll get a bit at the start of each level. You get a bit from the narrator before the start of each level. But you just occasionally get a bit of banter between the characters. Well, like indeed now. There are subtitles on, so you can read that if you really want, but it's not of any particular consequence. What we have is 3 characters at our disposal. We have Pontius the Knight, who has a bunch of various combat-based things. We have a sword and shield attacks here. We've got a shield slam kind of thing. We can do a ground pound, and indeed he can use his shield as a bit of a glide, which actually gives him a surprising amount of mobility compared to the other characters. You wouldn't have thought the big fat guy in heavy plate armor would necessarily be the most agile one, but he is surprisingly so. We have Amadeus, the mage, who literally only knows one spell. He can make a box. He could make boxes in previous games. In fact, he could make more than boxes in previous games. For some reason, they've stripped him of a lot of his abilities, and now literally all he can make is a box. And you can slam it into the ground if you so wish. That is, if you find yourself using Amadeus for combat, that's pretty much all he can do to actually thwart his foes. Slam that into the ground. Okay, fair enough. We have a puzzle here that can be solved in a number of ways to kind of demonstrate things off. We got the box. We can put the box on the spikes, so that will do that. That's a fairly standard one that you'll have seen in previous Trines if you played them. Put the box on the spikes to stop the spikes being spiky, and spiking you is kind of a fairly standard one they've always done. Previously, you could make multiples of them. Now, if you make a new one, the old one genuinely just disappears. So we can take another one, we can put it there. And that's a way to get across. Obviously, we've got 3 characters, we've got a number of different ways. This puzzle's a great one for illustrating sort of the choices you get. If I wanted to make my way across, there's a little ring up the top, and Zoya, the thief, she can swing from a rope and swing from things. We can use that as a way to get across. If I wanted to get across that way, she's more than capable of doing that. And then if I wanted to use Pontius, I guess his way of doing it would simply be to glide across. It's not a terribly challenging puzzle, all things considered. It is the first noteworthy one of the game. So there's that. You can break those. A lot of physics-based stuff. It's very, very heavy on the physics. And it's the different abilities kind of allow you a lot of flexibility in that. There's a lot of different ways to solve all the things in the game, and that is absolutely one of its strengths. I think maybe the move to 3D definitely means they've stripped a lot of stuff out that otherwise would have been in the game. As I say, Pontius is kind of one of the noteworthy examples, because he used to be able to make, firstly, a bunch of blocks and planks and things, and he was very, very utilitarian in that regard. Now, he's literally just got the one box. He's certainly got his uses in that regard, but he's maybe less useful than he used to be. Zoya as well, I believe, had a variety of different arrows and things that had different functionality in different scenarios. Now she's literally just got the one arrow and the rope. The rope we can tie stuff, so that's got a number of uses. We can tie things to other things. For example, this switch might want tying to something. If I let my rope out a bit, you can kind of let it out insofar as you're kind of intended to use the rope for swinging on things, so you can kind of let it out a bit here. And I can then attach it to the rings on this box. Anything that has an attachment point, you can, if I press left trigger, you can kind of see where all the attachment points are for things in this level. So that switch is activated. We've lifted one gate. One way to do the other one would simply be to get a big strong guy to push it open, and he could quite frankly dash through it. If you wanted to, we could say, for example, put a metal box there. That might be a good way to do that. So we can drop this down, bring this out, let that go, and that should hold the gate open pretty nicely. If you wanted to, there's some more collectibles up there, some more little triangles to collect up there, and well, then you'd need to find a way to make this work. I guess putting a block on there and jumping across might not do too badly there. There's a lot of stuff I'm kind of going to skip insofar as I've already collected them, and they were probably reasonably annoying to collect first time around, so I probably won't be too bothered about it second time around. We have an orb thing up there which you can dislodge with physics. To be fair, that's probably a lot easier to collect via Zoya's particular abilities. You can chain yourself to the balls, so that's easier to pull out that way, but as always, as is the way of Trine, there are multiple ways to do stuff. What this is here for is, there's some nice physics stuff over there. Well, there could be some nice physics stuff over there if I could do it correctly. What I want is Mr. Pontius and his shield slam to kind of wrecking ball that, which is kind of cool. There's a lot of very satisfying things going on in the physics. We have a swimming section here, which feels a little bit tacked on insofar as it is literally the only swimming part of the game I've seen at all. There are other levels that feature, like, water, but it's like poison water, and it's like, don't go in it. This is the only part of the game that's actually had any water in it that's like, no, you need to swim through here. Which is kind of odd. It's like, there's an entire feature and mechanics for swimming and stuff, and it's never used again. Which is just really strange. But there you go. So this one is kind of a... It's not necessarily immediately obvious. The fact that when you jump on this, I suppose the other side moves a little bit is kind of what gives it away, is that this is kind of a weird sea-story kind of thing. If I were to put, say, a weight up here and slam it down, that was more blunt than I had intended it being. Way more blunt. Maybe we should just put the block there. There we go. Bluntness does not always work. Bluntness is fun, but bluntness does not always work. So, we've got a kind of a thing here that I didn't necessarily immediately figure out. So there is a pull both switches at the same time kind of puzzle that gets you a few tries. So this one's kind of fun, so you can try putting a weight on there. That kind of works. And then the other weight could just be ourselves, and that will open a door. Which will do that. That solves that one. These red glowing things I feel like are kind of... They seem like they're a kind of checkpointy kind of deal, but I guess they're just where you come into the level if you sort of replay a level and start later on. Because, to be fair, if a character dies, if, for example, someone were to jump out of the world... Oh no, that wasn't even out of the world, that's spikes. If someone were to die, what I can do is I can move to another character and... Your character... The character that died for whatever reason will just become kind of this spirit, and if you can get to that... which is, you know, never terribly challenging. If you can get to that, you will be able to reclaim that character and play on with them. Go to jump across here, and hang around here for a moment, and we can reclaim Zoya. She's lost a little bit of health, but the game does have regenerating health, so it's kind of not a big deal. We can break that, and we can bring down that. And you can see up ahead there's a little bit of a boss fight thing coming up, which is kind of cool. It's a little bit scripted, there's no... Yeah, it's mostly just going to be hitting the red things when the red thing shows up. But it's a cool fight nonetheless. It's a bit of a spectacle. And I kind of dig that. So this thing's trying to knock down the building. We can just shoot all the red things. So now he's got to... Ow! Spikes. Yeah, there we go. His arm's gone red. His head's gone red now. I'll probably shoot him in the head a couple times. He'll throw some stuff at me. I can use the right stick with Pontius as a kind of a shield wall thing that will save me from some damage there. Pop him in the head. Now he's angry. Stagger around a bit. Whoa! Good job I was on a platform and he can't see because he doesn't have a head. I feel like keeping my shield up might be the advisable course of action there rather than trying to take him on. Oh, there we go.
A strange cloud poured out of the defeated monster, soon scattering and fading into the wind.
Smokes of vile sorceries!
Look here. This villain. It's made of junk.
Creepy. How's this for an idea? If we all give Trine back its powers, we could go back to living our lives as free and normal people.
Freedom. It does sound tempting.
I'm going to skip that because that is a bit of a story spoiler there, so I shall skip that bit for you just to save you the story. If you're in any way invested in the story of Trine, I'll let you experience that cutscene for yourself. But there you go. There's a little bit more voice acting and stuff. So this game visually does look really good. There's a bit of a combat section here. The soundtrack's fantastic as well, and the voice acting's pretty good. Aesthetically, the whole thing all comes together rather nicely. I can't give it any complaints in that regard. My main issue is, I think, going to be with just the fact that the mechanics of the game don't transition to 3D anywhere near as well as, well, they could. I think the game may have just been better served sticking to 2D and doing what it did really well. Because what it did do really well. And just the lack of mechanics here just don't work very well. I mean, Amadeus, going back to his boxes, aside from his lack of them, just controlling them is awkward. Because now we've got the right stick, you can move it in kind of a Y and X axis. To move it in the Z axis, unless there's something I've totally missed in the controls somehow, Yeah, you have to kind of move the left stick to move Amadeus. The box moves relative to you, but there's no way to move it towards or away from you without moving Amadeus as well, which makes it really kind of weird. You kind of may have noticed in the puzzle, one of the puzzles I solved with the box a moment ago, I kind of had, in order to move it away from Amadeus himself in the Z direction, I kind of had to run and get a bit of a run up and use the momentum of the box to throw it a little ways, which is kind of an odd way to do that, all things considered. There's no good way to move it away from your character. You can move it away from your character if you want to do like that, or towards you by using the two sticks separately, but since you can't use the right stick to move it in the Z axis, there's no way to do that. That's just awkward feeling. Which is just one of the ways the game doesn't transition to 3D particularly well. There's a lot of stuff that kind of gets lost in the background as well. There's a lot of secrets and things, hidden passageways and stuff, and different routes and alternative stuff that it's not necessarily immediately obvious that you can take. It's got some issues in that regard. So it does require a lot of exploration, and perhaps even more exploration than you necessarily immediately realise, just because stuff blends in so well. And because it's coming from a background where you kind of always typically assumed everything was in places where you could see it, and now there's things that might be hidden out of view towards you or in the background.
Wait, what?
There's a ledge there, but it doesn't necessarily look like that's immediately there. It looks like it's just part of the castle. It's just a window. Why not? So let's do a little bit of physics. Amadeus can pick up other things, so that box is useful. We can put that box there. We can use that as a mechanic to solve this. That was fairly straightforward. If I want to get up top, there's some other stuff up there, but again, I'm not going to go out of my way to get that. I think certainly another weakness of the game is definitely going to be its length. I think for a lot of people, it seems to be a fairly short experience. I've done 6 levels, as I say, and that's taken me about 3 hours to play through. And, well, you saw the map. There's literally only 2 more to get to. This game only has 8 levels. Each of the levels is reasonably long, and in my personal opinion, I feel like outstays its welcome just a little bit. I think the game is a little too long for what it needs to be, or each of the levels, that is to say, are a little too long for what they need to be. Each level, I think first time round, takes about half an hour's playthrough, and by the end of it, you're kind of feeling like you'd rather move on to another area. A lot of the areas would be nice if they finished, say, 10 minutes earlier than they did. But then on the whole, all the levels together, there aren't a whole heck of a lot of them, and you'll probably be done in the whole game in... Most people, I think, are probably going to take about 4 hours to play through this, maybe 5 hours tops. It's not going to be a very long experience, and given that they're asking £15.99 for it, I think that's going to be an issue for a lot of people. I think some people are going to say that maybe asking a little much for what's going to be a relatively short experience. There's an element of completionism to it, obviously, insofar as you can go back and try and collect all the Trine angles, which is probably not going to take you too long. They don't hide them too much. I should probably let go and let this guy keep his fish. Can I give him his fish? There we go. So yeah, some of the Trine angles are a little challenging to get to, but none of them are really like obnoxiously obtuse. You will probably find them all relatively easily if you really want to go out of your way to do it. It's probably not going to take you too much longer. There's obviously the side challenges as well, which are a little more difficult than the standard ones. They only let you have one character at a time. So it's a very specific focus thing. Each of the levels has a very specific focus, and I think that's their credit. They're kind of fun in their own way. Some of them are just like, here's 3 boulders and a whole load of enemies. All you have is the knight and his shield charge, and you end up just kind of playing football with them, which I kind of dig. That was a fun level. I liked that level. Then there's a similar kind of combat level for Amadeus, and it's like, oh, well, Amadeus doesn't have much combat. It took me a while before I even realized he could be used for combat. If I wanted to use him for combat, what I suppose I would do... Do I have any enemies left? Yeah, there we go. That's how you kill things with Amadeus, and that's literally his only move. The game's combat system does not excel well, if we're honest. That level with the boulders was kind of fun, but at the same time, you're still finding yourself just doing this all the time. It's like, oh, there's a boulder, line up with enemies, charge, charge. Oh, there's an enemy, charge. It's kind of a one-button spamming kind of thing at the end of the day. I know he has a few other abilities, but to be fair, you don't end up using many of them. It's a very simplistic kind of combat system. It's not designed to be combat first and foremost, obviously. It is a puzzle game first and foremost. So, yeah, that's perhaps not necessarily surprising that the combat is weak in a puzzle game, but when you've got a character whose main focus is combat, it would be nicer if his combat was a little bit more interesting. those are my main gripes with it, just the length, and I guess I would just say the whole thing as an entire experience doesn't necessarily translate to 3D as well as it could have done. I can't for the life of me remember if combat was particularly good in the previous ones, though. They may not have been very good either, but I can't remember, and I couldn't really make any judgment calls there. That may never have been any strength of the series, but I just feel like there could be a little bit more to it. I presume a lot of it is the sacrifices they've had to make to transform the series to 3D. I think the archery, you can see, it kind of tends to auto-lock onto stuff. It's very basic. It's just spam shots kind of near the enemy. It will go to them. I think some of the sacrifices are just innate, just by virtue of the transition they've had to make. But nonetheless, it's not necessarily to the game's favour to do that. And it may have just been better served by doing more of the same. It's always done what it did very well. So taking something away from what it did in order to make it in 3D, I don't know if that was necessarily the best decision they could have made for it. Can we bring this down? Oh, I need to break this, don't I? Oh, roots! Roots. They're in my way. I feel this is one of those things, this is a job for Amadeus and his boxes. So were I to place a box on top, I could drop it there. So yeah, I think you're kind of getting a feel for these things. These are kind of all the different mechanics that you do. It does introduce a few new toys and objects and things later on in the game, so you just keep the mechanics reasonably fresh, but obviously, as I say, there's, on the whole, just not necessarily as much there as you might like there to be. At any rate, this game is out now. It is on Steam, available for PC, as I say, for the princely sum of £15.99 or your regional equivalent. And, well, I'll leave it to you to decide whether you think that's going to be worth your money or not. That's not a judgment call I can make. That's obviously up to your own personal circumstances. But I think what this game does have, it does interesting. There's just not enough of it. They've taken a lot of mechanics away, and it's a short experience. If there were more of it, it'd be fantastic. But there's not really a lot of it right now. I will say, later down the line, it may very well be worth your money, insofar as it does have kind of an editor. I've not played around with it to any extent, but I did notice that in the launcher there is an editor option. Whoopsie, I fell. And that it does also list the mention of mod capabilities, so it may be that modders and level designers may come up with a lot more interesting stuff down the line, and that might improve the lifespan of the game, but right here and now at launch, like I say, you're looking at maybe 4 to 5 hours of gameplay. It's good gameplay, but there's not a lot there. Well, there you go. I think this might... Is this the end of the level? No, it's not. Either way, I think I'm going to leave this here. So thank you very much for watching. I've been Meroka. This has been Trine 3, the Artifacts of Power. And I will see you next time.